Yes, that is correct. You have seen this. The Navy is resetting all failures of fitness tests. And do we need to remind of the laughingstock that the Navy ended up being only a couple years ago, as they were deemed the biggest branch, aka the fattest branch out there. Now, this has more details that I think we need to break down than what you're seeing as, yes, this resetter or this counter has been reset. This is important. It says, remarks, this NAV admin announces a one-time reset of all physical fitness assessment PFA failures. As such, all active component, AC, and reserve component RC officers and enlisted sailors shall be counted as having 0 past PFA failures prior to the date of this NAV admin. When considering authority to re-enlist, advance, promote, or execute other career continuation transitions such as extensions and duty station transfers. All other programs and processes that take PFA failures into account, such as officer commissioning programs, selection or screening boards, special duty screenings, etc., will continue to consider any past PFA failures in line with normal procedures. Now, what's important about this is what they're saying here, to break it down for you, is you can do the mission critical stuff, meaning if it's an operational duty screening where you have to be in Japan on a ship forward deployed with this critical skill that you essentially would maybe be barred from being overseas because you could have been separated for that before. And they're trying to say, we want to get you in these sea duty billets to try and move forward. And that's what I think they're getting at here. But they're saying, we don't want you to be able to take on more responsibility in regards to being an officer or maybe some super special program. However, there are people that are going to be critical of this because this is going to allow you to re-enlist still, which before would bar you from that if you had enough. And on top of that, would also have issues where you would not be able to advance. So they're like, you can't get officer type promotion. You can't be that authoritative, but you can make chief, you could make E7, or E6 or whatever else and have failures. So that's why people are looking at this and like, this is interesting. It says, because the challenges of preparing for and executing the limited number of PFAs throughout the coronavirus disease pandemic potentially place some sailors at a disadvantage. This reset is intended to level the playing field and ensure every sailor with the drive to continue has an opportunity to meet fitness standards and serve in our Navy to the maximum extent desired. This policy does not supersede the need for an effective command level culture of fitness. It remains incumbent upon individual sailors to invest in their personal health and wellness in order to maintain warfighting readiness. This is a multi-part thing as well. We can only blame COVID-19 for so many things as to why we can have one fitness test a year, reset this in general. Like, I have to ask, why are these people, compared to someone like a sailor that is able to say, meet the expectations, going to now level the playing field with people that didn't meet that expectation the entire time? I know that COVID was hard. I know that it was tough to stay fit. But to say that these sailors that did maintain that standard are now being disadvantaged because the fact that they actually maintained a standard is crazy to me. And the last part of this, where it talks about command level responsibility in order to be able to do command fitness activities, I would love to see time where there's a command that has that ability to do that and puts precedence on that and doesn't get the hatchet taken to their head anytime that they want to do that and say, we were actually doing the command fitness thing. Right now, we just see people juggling balls. Mission, fitness, retention, school, whatever it is. Like, nobody can actually do this because it's just so overtasked. As somebody that served with the Marine Corps, I just have to still emulate and say they put an emphasis on it and they do make it a part of their daily regimen. And I would love to see the Navy do something like that. And I don't know if the metric of this test is even a sentiment of people actually being physically fit or not. That is a whole other debate. They say this reset empowers commanding officers to restore retention and advancement recommendations as a modification to current policy requirements detailed in reference A and B, which mandate their removal after subsequent PFA failures. The decision to remain in the Navy beyond the normal length of obligated service or expiration of obligated service is voluntary. Granted, when I hear this, I do think there are people out there that obviously do have technical expertise, and they are shifting some responsibility down to commanding officers. Like, are there people that should be retained that obviously have the skill set, maybe need a little bit more work? I don't think this is solving the problem of what is actually out there. And this is a Band-Aid solution, because the issue is the culture around fitness that we're seeing. And, you know, we could go down to every aspect of the fitness test itself, the components of the fitness test, the BCA, which is the height, weight measurement, how we do that. You know, that has been highly debatable for so long that this, I think, is just a Band-Aid to a retention issue. And further on in this document, what you're going to see is that they've said pretty much any way that somebody could be separated, whether that be for retirement purposes or basic administrative separation, that they are going to cease all forms of that and allow people to stay in the military throughout this process as this new nav admin is rolled out. And there are a lot of heads talking about this. What I love is that for the U.S. Navy, there are something called quotas, meaning how many available spots there are to promote. And I would say if the Navy wanted to create culture of fitness, they should still incentivize people that pass their fitness tests to be able to advance. Like, this is only saying, oh, you didn't pass it, you can still move up. You know, why? That is the issue. Why is there not some way that you're seeing this be wrapped up into an evaluation? There's a score. There's something that is calculated in that. There's nothing part of that, which is why I think a lot of people are mad about this, because, you know, I'm a person that passed my fitness test last time. Why should I have to then be seen as level playing field as people that didn't pass the test last time? There should be some evaluation that is brought into the entirety of the score of how people are brought in and brought up through the rank. And like I said, this seems to be a retention issue. I do not want to deviate from what we've covered on this channel, as many of the issues that we find within the U.S. military in general have led some creative solutions that we should reflect on real quick, as this is not the first retention effort that the U.S. Navy has done. They've allowed higher tenure waivers, which meant people that were supposed to be kicked out of the military could now stay longer to keep their skills. And then they looked at also including the new addition of the ASVAB score of a 10, which has been the lowest that they've ever seen. So what is all this pointing to? You know, a lot of people are like, oh, the retention was good. We're recruiting more than ever. They've said that over the past couple weeks here, that Navy has met its retention goals or its recruiting goals better than ever expected. But we see policies like this. And I want to say this is not the first time that we've seen this. I think it was under the Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Richardson, in around 2015 era, where we actually saw a reset kind of a similar fashion, but it was more stringent and technical, not just a clear blatant reset of every failure, which when you only have one test a year, yeah, that's going to be an issue. Maybe it might be better to have multiple tests a year still. That way we allow people to have more tests to base off of and create a better, like, eye over the fitness issue that was out there. I don't know what the numbers are. I don't know if more fitness tests means better results, less, premier results. I don't know what that means, but they are not being very transparent when it comes to this kind of stuff. And I would love to hear those kinds of discussions that are going on behind these closed doors. I think what we're seeing here is the U.S. Navy is facing an issue where there is so much ship space. Some people fit on the ship, do specific tasks and jobs, and the requirements, the qualifications, all of the inspections, all of these other things take precedence over this fitness, saying that in order to be able to get around that, I think there just needs to be more bodies. And I don't think that's going to be coming anytime soon, as we're having issues getting people in the military, and we're also having people having issues staying in the military. So I would love to see some creative solutions as to how we can create a culture of fitness better. But I think that a lot of people are upset about this. And that's where I'm going to go to the Facebook comments, kind of seeing some of the sentiment that's out there right now. Cliff Brown writes, when I worked at Personnel Command, my Navy HR, I wrote a point paper on retention of enlisted sailors, and it didn't make it far beyond being ignored. The Navy loses well-trained talent at the cost of millions a year and at the expense of gap billets across the Navy due to poor policy and poor execution of programs. Enter the Retention Retainment Command. This command would be tasked with containing every service member who requested to retire or separate voluntarily. They would have unique powers to offer sailors a variety of benefits that may entice a sailor to stay for another tour. Every sailor is motivated by different needs, and the lack of addressing those individually is why our retention is failing. Some sailors want money, but that is not everyone's motivation. For instance, a sailor who owns a home and has children in schools may leave the service because they are being forced to PCS across country or overseas. They value their family above career and leave. But what if the retention office could find a solution, maybe an in-rate billet that already needs a fill in their location? Boom, problem solved, experience retained, sailor happy, command gets a fill. I've watched sailors under orders promote. Then they get redistributed to another location. They choose to retire instead of taking the new orders. Maybe let them deny the promotion and take the original billet. Keep serving and grade and go to the next alternate. If it's money, negotiate with SIP or bonuses. Maybe A school or extra training. The point, if retention is a problem, there's a load of problems that our specialized office with negotiating powers could solve. Billet fill would increase, retention would rise, and experienced already sailors would be retained. I wanted to add that because I thought that was a creative solution to something that I think a lot of people were not thinking. And it's sad that somebody, especially like this guy, Cliff Brown, if he did work over at this command, where it kind of just fell on deaf ears and people weren't willing to deal with it because maybe it was just too big of an issue to tackle or conquer. But this is where I get to you guys. What do you guys think about this issue? Where do you lie on it? Because this has been going like hotcakes across the internet, and obviously everyone has some thought under the sun. If you guys like videos like this or other topics or videos you want me to cover, hit me up over on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, or down in the comments below. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.